Number one political hip hop radio show in America, y'all. And if you just tuning in, man, you left, you did not hear or see a powerful presentation done by Newark, New Jersey Mayor Raz J. Baraka, y'all. For real, breaking down politics, the vote, and when it comes to black people and Latino people and oppressed people, man. I tell y'all, Newark, you're blessed. Newark, you're blessed with a great mayor. I'm telling y'all. And when that brother either is voted out of office or decides to leave, folks really gonna feel it. They're gonna say, "Wow, we had a very special mayor for real, man." That brother is very powerful. And I want y'all to really understand this. The brother ran for mayor in 1994. I joined this campaign fresh out of college myself in 1994 and was with that brother until he got elected. I'm still with the brother, but I mean organizing with the brother all those years from 1994 all the way to 2014. So you know, a brother like me and my brother E, we were crying. When that brother got elected, we were just in tears.
Wait, can I just say that you just told everyone your age, right?
Oh, yes. I'm going to tell you something. I'm not ashamed to be in my 50s, all right? I survived a lot of things growing up in cities like Newark, like heroin, they used to call it heroin back in the day. Heroin, right? And then when the 80s came, crack. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of disorganization that took place, a lot of disorganization that took place in between all of that, man. You know, so when there was a movement again for black consciousness that took place in the late 80s and the early 1990s, I was touched by that. You know, brothers like Raz and brothers like Aziz. I mean, brothers that Raz was shouting out, I know those brothers from Near Force. You know what I'm saying? We're good friends. We're comrades. And Trevor, big shout out to Trevor and all those brothers, Heavy and so many of those brothers and sisters, man. Oh man, Sister Isis, they all coming to my head now. But you know, we were out there, you know. And like I said, when the brother got elected in 2014, we were shedding tears. People were like, "Why are you crying so much?" I said, "Because it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, banging on doors." Or some doors getting shut in your face, and like, we don't support them, we don't support y'all crazy, you know. So, you know, big shout out to Newark, big shout out to Mayor Raz J. Baraka. But we got another special guest in the building, and of course we have our great staff member, our very own Asian Note, who is also a very progressive board member with the Newark Board of Education. All right, no doubt. Sister Asia Note is in the building.
Yes.
All right, let's give her a strong round of applause. No doubt.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Hello, and it is summertime. I feel as though it's been been some time since I've been here.
Yes.
Only because the temperature is a little different. Last time I was here, it was nice out. Now it's burning up
Absolutely.
out. And so I hope everyone is staying hydrated, staying cool. I know that Lyft is actually, hello. Lyft is providing free rides to Newark residents, to cooling stations. And so definitely take the opportunity to do those things. If you are not staying hydrated in cooling areas, please get yourself to a cooling station. And if you need a ride, Lyft is definitely providing it. And so, welcome. I have two fantastic guests this evening. And we were just talking out there, and I wanted to explain to them why I invited the two of them. And so, I think here in the city of Newark, we sometimes work in our silos. Whether it be public safety, whether it be in education, whether it be in the health industry, and sometimes we don't see how all those different areas are actually connected. It's the ecosystem of our city. Right. And the better we understand how our ecosystem is functioning, then the better we're able to tap into the different resources, whether it be for our families, whether it be for our elders, whether it be for our children. And so I would love to introduce one of my guests. My guest. We have retired Lieutenant Levi Holmes the second. I actually love the second part, and that's cool.
Thank you.
the president of Norco, Bronze Shields.
Yes.
Thank you. And then we also have Jacelyn Matthews from Imagine North. And so I'm going to give them both the opportunity of explaining who they are and a little bit of their background and work that they do. And I'm assuming that Lieutenant's going to say ladies first.
Of course.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so Jacelyn, tell us more about yourself and the work that you do at Imagine.
Sure. So like Asia said, my name is Jacelyn. I'm the program director for Imagine at Center for Coping with Loss, our North location. Just a little bit of background about myself. I have worked as a clinician in the city of Newark, a mental health clinician in the city of Newark for a number of years. I have also worked as a volunteer in the Peace Corps in the country of Rwanda. So I was living there for 2.5 years. And so that was really kind of my first foray into doing like real trauma and grief work, and really led to my work now, working at Imagine. So at Imagine, what we do is provide free grief support services to children and families. Children's ages 3 to 18, young adults 18 to 30, and then the parent or caregiver of those children who have either lost a child or a partner or spouse. And so we are there just to kind of provide this free resource, because we know that there are so many people who are struggling with the loss of someone, but not realizing or recognizing like where to go and who to find those resources from, who to get support from. And then oftentimes what happens is if people are going out to try to find support, it's an issue of cost, right? Like, how am I going to pay for it? Is my insurance going to cover it? Here at Imagine, they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about thinking about the cost. They don't have to worry about contacting their insurance. It really is just a place for them to get the support. And usually what happens is that there's families who are kind of like just trying to continue to make things work after this loss, but you know, they don't know how to support each other. A parent doesn't know how to support the child. The child is like, I don't want to cry in front of mom or dad because then it makes them sad. I don't want to make them sad. So it's a place where everyone can come at the same time to receive the support. So children are going into their respective support groups that evening, and then the parent or caregiver is going into their respective support group as well to receive support. So all happens on the same evening, so that families don't have to worry about trying to find a babysitter or anything like that. All happens together. And we provide dinner, so it's one less thing for the families to worry about. We feed you as well. So that's like one of the things that we do at Imagine at our center, but we also provide in-school support. So we go into schools after they've experienced the death of a student or a teacher or another staff member, and we do grief education with the students. So what is grief, what's mourning, what's loss, but also how can I actually provide support to my peer, because we all understand that students are going to talk to each other before they talk to an adult, right? So if they're dealing with the loss and having a tough time, more than likely they'll talk to a friend before they talk to an adult in their life, and particularly in school. So how do I support my friend, right? But then also providing that same kind of information to teachers and to staff, because if we have adults in their lives who are recognizing that we need to provide support to these individuals, they know what to say, they know how to say it, but also it's a situation where recognizing that all behavior is information. There's no such thing as a bad child. There are sad children. There are children who are dealing with a lot at home and don't have any other way to express it, right? And so instead of a child being mislabeled as being a bad kid and they're difficult to work with, what are some other things that we could be doing? What is that behavior telling us about that child? How can we provide additional resources?
Yeah, because that child is going to grow up to be an adult.
Exactly.
Well, and they're going to have those behaviors transform into adult behaviors that are unhealthy. And how does that shape our community when our children are dealing with trauma? And when we have adults dealing with trauma, who are a little bit more stronger, who are a little bit more capable of doing certain things.
Right.
And so I think that's a very important work that we now have here in the city of New York, particularly the South Ward.
Yes, we are based in the South Ward. Open to everyone, but we are based in the South Ward.
Yes, the South Ward, like I said before. How a little biased. But yes, it's open to everyone.
Yes.
It's definitely more accessible to people in the South Ward. And so, thank you, and we're definitely going to continue the conversation, but definitely want to make sure the lieutenant has the opportunity to introduce himself and what brings you here.
Retired Lieutenant Levi Holmes, the second, 25-year veteran of the Newark Police Department. I've been the president of the Newark Bronze Shields for the past 10 years. The Newark Bronze Shields is an African-American police organization within the city of Newark. We were founded to fight against racism within the police department. Because back in 1959 when we were founded, racism was rampant, it was violent, and it was horrible. African Americans had horrible conditions back in 1959. So we organized back then to fight against racism. We still do that to this day. But what we did was we understood, once we started gaining momentum within the police department, we understood that the citizens needed the same advocacy. And we thought that as police officers, we can provide a different type of advocacy as police officers going out there advocating for the citizens. So that's, we expanded to the community as well. So we host a myriad of community service events and efforts all day long, every day. I told you earlier we have Newark Police Explorers Post 2808.
Yeah.
That is my, that's a group that I'm so proud of. It's a group of young people ages 14 to 21. And what we do is we keep them all year round. There's no weekend program or no 6-week program. It's 24/7.
Nice.
Twice a week we keep them with us, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. all year round. Weekend activities. They just came from the Adirondack Mountains yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for a week. And we just, as police officers, we spend time with them and we mold them. It's kind of like a junior police academy.
Okay.
But more importantly, we teach them discipline. We teach them self-control. We teach them how to express themselves without violence. And we teach them the laws. We found that, like you said earlier, Jacelyn, that there's no such thing as a bad child.
Right.
It's children who don't understand.
Right.
So 2 young people have a fight in the street. Kids fight all day long. But what's your mama say? If he hits you, pick up a stick and hit him back.
Right.
Well, we teach our explorers that once you pick up that stick and you hit him, you committed aggravated assault. Right? It's a different situation.
Right.
So they get to understand that. But I mean, that's one of the programs we have. We have a host of programs that we do all day long, from book bag drives, of course, turkey drives. What we're doing right now with the New York Giants is a community partner of ours. And what we do, we have educational forums. We had a huge component in terms of taking the knee. So we had that whole thing going on because the population was saying that it was an anti-police thing. And police officers took issue with NFL players taking the knee. And we stood firm and said, no, we have no issue with it.
You say we?
As North Brown Shield.
Yeah.
So North Brown Shields totally understood that, and we are police officers. And we're saying we not only do we understand it, but we support it.
Nice.
Great.
So, and we had a huge thing with the New York Giants, week-weight football, Central High School football, and it was great.
Yeah.
We gave them brand new football equipment. So we do a lot. We do a lot in the community.
Wow.
And we do recruitment too.
Yes. Oh, let's be a part of that recruitment real quick.
Yeah, the recruitment is huge. And the thing is, I think that the Brown Shields must be involved in the recruitment simply because young people growing up in the city of Newark, you see police officers as aliens.
Right.
It's those people over there who I don't like, who I have issue with, who I heard bad things about, who I know did bad things in the past.
Right.
So you don't want to be involved. But we as the Brown Shields, when we go into the community, we let them know that it's us. It's us in uniforms, and you can be in this uniform too. And if you have an issue with the police, the best way to fight that situation or the better is to join the police department and be a better example. So we have a huge recruitment program right now. Currently we have 250 civilians involved in our recruitment program.
Nice.
And what we do, we take it to the next level. Kind of like bragging.
Do it. Let it be known. Let it be known.
So what we do is we understand the system, we understand the process, and we understand how people fail through the process when they do want to become police officers.
Wait, so this is the program before Newark Police Department actually opens up the recruitment process. You do a pre-training, or so?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
So we get them ready, because a lot of times when it's time to do physical fitness, you don't understand what the physical fitness component. So we're out in Weekway Park right now.
Oh, really?
Working people out, getting them in shape.
Wow.
So what happened if I wasn't really interested in becoming a police officer? Could I still work out with y'all?
If you can handle it.
You don't want any stragglers? Keep up.
Okay. I just want to know the criteria. Like, could someone just come and like, I need to get in shape. Can I hang out with y'all?
Yeah.
Oh.
But we do the psychological component as well. Because a lot of us, when we go to the police academy, we don't understand, or we take it personally when the drill instructor raises their voices at us. And we say, who do you think we're talking to? And we want to fight. We want to become rambunctious. But it's just preparation, because as a police officer, people are going to yell and they're going to scream at you, so you have to be able to deal with that.
Right.
And you can't react. You can't react just because someone yelled at you or called you a name.
Taking it personal.
You can't take it personal.
Right.
So we do that type of training as well. But we have an entire process, but we have everyone's name right now. We have a orientation that's coming up soon. And the orientation. We didn't schedule a date yet, but if you
Okay,
go on
okay.
www.northbrownshields.com
I know that's
and
right.
sign up,
Okay.
you will be in the loop.
I might not sign up, but yes.
Listen, it's going to be great because what we're going to do is we're going to have a whole pre-orientation. So the police department has the entire process. We're going to teach you that process before you even go to the police
Oh,
department.
that's amazing.
So you'll know what to expect. You'll know how to present yourself. You know how to present your paperwork, and you'll be prepared for the financial obligations. Because a lot of times in the police academy process, you find out at the last minute that you need $800 or $1,000. Now you're saying I don't have it. But we're gonna give you the entire thing soup to nuts before you get there. And then before you take the civil service test, we're gonna give you a 3-day free course. So for 3 days, we're gonna train you how to take the civil service test so you can pass and you can do well.
Wait, is this service free?
Yes.
Really?
North Brown Shields, baby.
I never knew that. And
Yeah,
I didn't even invite you to, plug that in. And so
Yeah, we did it before.
Okay.
We did it the last cycle.
That's incredible. And so now that I'm hearing both organizations, you all do advocacy.
Yes.
Advocacy work.
Right.
And do in different ways. And so whether it be advocating for children and families who have dealt with loss, or advocating for the community, or those people who are police officers currently who are in need of help within the department or just out in the community.
Yes.
And so as a teacher, I know firsthand the importance of advocacy and advocating. Because sometimes as individuals, you don't know how to advocate best for yourself. Right. You just don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
With other people that do know.
Right.
Yes.
And so teaching us how to ask for help and then also giving help. Because although you might be making money, you don't just keep what you have, you share the wealth, whether it be knowledge, whether it be resources. And so that definitely is important. But also I feel as though it's like steps 2 that we have here. And so we have children that are in need of help, and then sometimes those children don't receive the help that they require. Then they become adults that actually might present themselves to be a problem in our community.
Yes.
And so again, with that ecosystem, it's all tied together.
Yes.
And because a child graduates from high school does not mean like, oh, they're good now.
Right.
Lies.
Yes.
the lies
Right.
that we tell. And so how do we get this information out there, or how do we encourage people to be more a part of that process in different ways? And so I lost my father when I was 12 years old. He had a drug addiction. And so my mother was my champion. I speak about my mother all the time because she was able to seek out help for me.
Right.
And I'm not sure who I would be, the woman that I would be today, if it wasn't for my mother making those conscious decisions on my behalf at a young age.
Right.
But some people say like, no, my child is okay.
Right.
Or no, we're going to keep this here.
Children are resilient.
And so how do we motivate members in our community to take advantage of these resources?
Right.
Because trauma has a long lasting effect.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Yes, it does.
So something we often say is that anger is just unresolved grief, and a lot of people think that grief is associated just with death, right? But you can grieve the loss of a parent that's lost due to incarceration. They're physically on the earth, but they're not physically in your home, right?
Yes.
Or it can be you're grieving the loss of some divorce, can be a loss, right? Or being in foster care, things of that nature. So we try to help to educate people to see that there's so many different ways that you can grieve, and that there's so many different losses. So even with our in-school support groups, it's mixed loss. It's not just loss due to death. It can be loss due to homelessness, incarceration, deportation. It runs the gamut. And if you have adults who have unresolved grief, then they go back and tell their children, you're okay, you don't need anything, we're fine. And so you want adults in their lives to recognize, no, they might need someone to talk to after this, right? And how can I be a supportive adult for them? And so it's really just about getting adults to be cognizant of the ways that grief can manifest for children, and providing and getting the support that they need, and not being afraid or shy of it. And I think there's still a lot of stigma that comes with mental health as well. And so even at Imagine, we're not actually grief counselors. We do peer support. So all of our facilitators are volunteers. They go through training. We do have an upcoming training, August 23rd to 26th.
Say it a little slower now, so everybody.
We do have an upcoming training for those who are looking to learn how to become supporters of those who are grieving. And that training is going to be August 23rd to the 26th. And those are for people to volunteer with us at Imagine and provide and facilitate our support groups. But so it really is just trying to get those. We don't, like I said, we don't do counseling, but we do provide this support. And so when people come in, they number one recognize, especially for children, it's so powerful to see I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that lost my dad or my mom or my grandma. Because when you go to school, you might not be able to say the same thing, right? And you feel like you are the only one. But you go here and you're like, no, there's so many other people. Same thing goes for the adults, right? A lot of them come in and say, I was just here for my child, but then say, like, this is my first time to, like, breathe and to know that I'm in this space. I don't have to wear all the many different hats that I have to wear on an everyday basis. I can come in and kind of get the support I need, but also be able to support other people, right, who are going through something very similar. So we try to provide that support, and it really is about a lot of education and trying to get people to understand the necessity and the importance of understanding what grieving is and how to provide support to the children in their lives, but also the other adults in their lives too. It's a paradigm shift. It's a mind shift, and how people see and view grief and loss, and that we really try to break down the stigma. So even though we're not providing actual therapy or counseling at our center, we're a step, right? And so if people feel comfortable and they say, like, oh, it's actually not too bad to talk to people about what I'm going through, and I don't feel judged, then they might take that next step to actually receive actual therapy. And so if we can kind of like push and change the dialogue about what people know about mental health, then we're doing our work, right?
And then it's also giving, so as an educator, a kindergarten teacher at that, always trying to, sometimes, so people feel how they feel, but they're not always able to express that with words and communicate that to everyone else. And so I also feel organizations such as Imagine gives words to children to be able to express themselves, versus doing it in a physical way. Because sometimes you don't know how to express yourself, you might become physical about it, and now it's perceived as something else. Like, oh, this is, you're aggressive, you're angry, you're this. Only because you don't have the words to be able to communicate that. And so peer counseling, you're with people that it's your peers. So people that are in your age group, people that are in your neighborhood, that you see probably here and there, that you're familiar with. And so they're using words to express themselves, and you're like, oh, I didn't even know I could use that language to tell people what I'm going through. And sometimes that is like a missing key. People just don't know, like, you're like, what's wrong? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know either. And so, and so I think it's like interesting, when you say like that paradigm shift, it's like the same thing with police officers too, in the perception.
It is, because one big thing that we really, really are serious about is Newark residents becoming Newark police officers. Because it's like Jacelyn said, we can identify with when a person is acting in a different way because they're going through grief or whatever. We understand that they're not acting out towards us, even though they might speak out against us. Because we're from here. So we know what it's like when a person is acting out because they lost a loved one. So we know that when that person is yelling and screaming and calling the police all types of names, it's not personal, it's grief. So we shouldn't incarcerate that person, we should let that person breathe. But that's why we work diligently. We are really, really serious about this, because a few years ago, a year ago, we had to open up the ranks and allow people outside of Newark to become Newark police officers because we didn't have enough qualified candidates. So we're really working hard on getting qualified candidates, because you have to understand the community that you're policing. And we're 100% in alignment with that. Yes, yes, you have to. You 100% have to. So we're very serious with that. I mean, I had a situation before. I told you I was in robbery homicide for 12 years.
I just want to let y'all know, when he first said that in the hallway, I was like, I'm sorry, you have, where? What? And he wanted to continue on the conversation. I'm like, I'm sorry, we first had to, I'm traumatized now just from that statement, that title.
12 years.
Like, for 12 years. Like,
yeah, that's serious.
Go ahead now.
But I had an incident where I was the first detective on the scene of a homicide. And the family was upset. They knew the police did not kill their loved one. But the anger that they displayed that night, it was something to behold. It really was. And they were really lashing out at myself and the officers. I went to some of the other people in the community that happened to be there.
Okay.
And I said, listen, I understand that they're not upset with me. But the way they're conducting themselves, they're interfering with the investigation. So I need you to go over there and calm them down. So I could have used my authority as a police officer and went over there, but that would not have resolved anything.
Right.
That would not only would that have not resolved anything, that would have alienated the situation. It would have inflamed it because the people were already emotional.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it worked.
Something completely different.
Right. So, and that's the thing, that's what we teach within our organization.
Okay.
To understand that you have the authority to take action, but you don't have to become the ultimate ruler in order to deal with people. You know what I mean? You have the authority to make an arrest. Sure you do.
Right.
But you're in a position to help and mold the community and build the community.
Well, that's a mind shift. Well, my perception for police officers too, that the stance of your power stance. And so you have how are you going to use your power? Are you going to use your power to help, or are you going to use your power to kind of have this idea of have control over this, like your body? Like I have control over your body. I have control over this. You're going to do what I say. It's like a parent. I told you to sit down.
Right.
Sit down. And so it's like a shift for everyone. Wait, so you promote that?
Yes, we do.
Within the organization.
Within our organization.
So how do you promote that?
So what we do is we take all the elders, all the senior police officers. And
elders?
Yes. Listen, when
seasoned.
When you're doing this for 30 years, you're considered an elder. We have some of this 30 years that's still working.
Oh, wow.
Still working. Congratulations to all of them. Thank you for
still
your
working.
service.
They're still working, and they're still active in the organization. They still come out. They still support. And we have these conversations with them to get them to understand that people dislike the police because historically the police take away your voice. Right? We're not there to take away your voice. So if you have something to say, even if I don't like it, you have the right to say it. As long as you're not breaking the law at this particular moment, then it's okay. And maybe I should allow you to have your voice, because after you have your voice, then we can have a relationship after that. We can talk and have dialogue and then get to the point where we need to get to. As opposed to me saying, listen, Asia, shut up. I'm the police. Sit down and do what I say. Oh, I said that before.
Right.
I never said that before.
Real smooth. He came right that in.
You snuck that in real quick. You like, ooh, just an example.
That came very naturally.
No, but so we try to get these things going because it's going to help the community.
Yes.
And that's what it's about, understanding our purpose.
Yeah, and so that was the whole tie in terms of being able to give people a voice, in terms of how to use your words to best express yourself. Right. And then from the police officer side, being able to accept that, being able to accept the words that people are telling you as well. But then, like, I also think about in terms of our police officers, they go through a lot of traumatic things as well. The things that they are exposed to, the events that they see. I shared a story of me being a teacher and having a student in kindergarten. The child was 5, going on 6, and how he was in foster care because his home was not safe for him whatsoever. And so he had to be removed from the home. But when a child is being removed from a home, it's never for simple things. So it's extreme. Right. And so I used to always question, how can I help this child that has been through some traumatic event? And now they're in my classroom. Right. And I remember he had this child, he had an outburst. And when he calmed down, he wanted to give me a hug. And I was like, I'm not too sure if I should give you a hug because I don't want to promote that behavior. Because you might turn into an adult that does that, and you say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Sorry doesn't fix things. You still did what you did.
Right.
And so this idea that giving words to people to better express themselves, and then training people to how to receive those words in a manner that is going to move forward in a positive way.
Yes.
Right? Because that's what we want. Because the event that happened is the event that happened. If someone passed away, it happened.
Right.
For crime or whatever situation that requires a police officer to be there, it happened.
Yes.
Now the next step is, how do we move forward? And you can move forward in a different way. Depending on who's there, depending on the training that they have, depending on the support that they receive. It can go left or right. Real quick.
And but also based on the perception that the police officer has of that person and the incident. That's key, that's critical. Who is the person behaving in that way? and why are they doing it? I might have a situation where I personally suffer some type of personal trauma. Maybe I was abused as a child. Now I get to the scene of a crime where I have an adult before me.
And you're triggered.
That committed that same crime. I'm supposed to do what? Say, oh, I'm Officer Perfect? Sorry, sir, you're under arrest. No, it doesn't work that way. Like, we need training and counseling constantly in order for us to handle these things. We really do.
Yeah. I just wanted to, so you said sorry, sir. And also sorry, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed.
And so try to be real conscious of the stigmas, the stereotypes that we put on either genders.
Right.
And so because men and women can commit the same exact crime.
Don't I know it?
Yes, you do.
Don't I know it?
Yes, you do.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's really important to see how do we move forward and so as Bashir was saying, with the mayor moving forward with the city, it's all about how we move forward as a city in a way that we don't always have to agree, we don't always have to disagree.
Right.
Yes.
But it's in the best interest of the whole. How do we get to that next level?
And I love the fact that the way the mayor is pulling everyone together. The mayor is pushing that agenda for everyone. Focus on getting the city to the next level.
Right.
Don't worry about yourself so much. A lot of police officers were upset because we didn't get the raise that we wanted. So, but we're living at a comfortable level. We are. And there are other citizens that work for the city who are making a pittance. And they're working really hard.
Right.
Well, we have to understand what the mayor is doing. The mayor is saying he wants to bring everyone to a higher level before he can increase my coffers. We have to talk to the police officers about that because selfishly we say we want it all. Even though I work hard, I want a raise, I'm due a raise, but you know what? I have to wait a minute because I know that person over here, especially civilians who are working within the police department, they need a raise as well. And their situation is more dire than mine.
Right.
So I can wait and be understanding because it's about taking the city to the next level, not just Lieutenant Holmes. And once we can do that, we can understand each other and work together and have these relationships. But it's all about building relationships.
Right. I think another piece that the mayor's been doing is really focused on Newark becoming a trauma-informed city. And that's across all areas, all aspects, all sectors. And I think that's so important that if we're all speaking the same language about what trauma is, how do we educate, how do we provide resources, then we all respond very differently to those who are exposed to trauma, right? So as police officers, as in the work that I do, as teachers and et cetera, that are interfacing with these people on a regular basis, if we come at them with a level of understanding about what is driving this behavior, like you were saying before, it's going to change their response to us, right? Because we're responding differently to them. So we come at them and say, okay, I have a level of empathy and for your situation, and I see you differently, and I address you differently. It can change the interaction that we have and really push us forward.
Very, very much so.
You reminded me of a situation I had when there was almost a riotous situation, and there was a male there who was very, very anti-police.
Wait, was this a rioting situation or a rebellion?
Riotous. It could have been a riot. It could have become, yes. But like you said, I had to take a minute. I was blessed to have gone through de-escalation training. So I could have been the police officer.
Police department?
Yes. So I could have been that police officer who said, I'm the police, I'm bigger than you, I work out on a regular basis, and I'm going to make you comply.
Wait, he just dropped that he works out on a regular basis. He just slides these things, and I'm in shade.
Like, don't mess with me.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Real quick with it.
That's your president.
Right, exactly.
I see you.
We got it.
I'm going to take some of this stuff, too. It not work out.
Right.
I see you. Okay, go ahead.
But as I was saying, I had the benefit of de-escalation training, so I decided to de-escalate the situation, and I actually had to humble myself and say, excuse me, sir, is there anything I can do to make the situation better for you? Let's talk. Listen, what can I do for you? Can I talk to someone on your behalf? Can I advocate for you because you have been mistreated in this situation by forces beyond my means? I did that. It took me maybe 20 minutes, but I did it, and the guy went peacefully. As opposed to me, without that training, I would have been a different officer.
Right.
And it would have been a different situation.
Right.
That man would have been incarcerated unnecessarily because of his rage at that particular time.
Right.
So Our police department is doing that right now, de-escalation training. So we're 100% on board with that, the North Bronx Shields as an organization is, and we're really pushing that because it'll stop unnecessary incarceration of the community.
Right.
So a lot of times people get incarcerated for avoidable situations. So the police officers are a little bit more understanding, and we have that trained, it'll be a little bit better.
And I don't want to like take away from the fact of like, doing this work is not easy. I'm sure even in the moment that you had, you like, I really wish I could just. Right.
Me?
And like even as teachers, but even as teachers or other people that are interfacing with them, it's difficult to be like, you know, like humble yourself in those moments and say like, okay, I gotta remember there is something going on in this child's life or this adult's life that is causing them to respond in this way. It's difficult, but it's so necessary. Like look at the life that you were able to impact in that moment. So that could have changed the way that he sees police going forward, right? Yes. And even like the way people see adults, like for children, the way they see adults and interact with adults going forward. Because that one person took a moment to say like, you know what? I know there's something else going on here. I can't take this. It's not about me. It's not personal. But I know that if I take this moment, it can really change the way that this person now sees.
And it's not just
people.
that person because it's a trickle. It's a ripple effect.
Right.
And so that man could be a father, could be an uncle, could be a cousin, and so he would tell his story to his family or to his friends or to that child. They can say, well, and they didn't listen to me, they shut me down, and I wasn't able to express myself. And so then they'll tell their friends, because kids talk. And so like, if y'all see in the hallway, it's my niece, it's my son, they just like walked away, and they talk. I think it's funny. I'm like, what y'all talking about? But they talk, and so they share their experiences, just how we're sharing our experiences. Right. And so when I'm telling you, you're gonna take it for face value. If I'm saying this is how it is for me as a teacher, and you never taught before, then you're gonna go away with my perception of teaching.
Yes.
And so the same thing about whether you're interacting with police, or you never interacted with police, but someone else did, and they're telling you their experience. You're like, oh, so that's how it was. And so you want it to be as positive as much as possible.
Right.
So when they tell other people, it's like, oh, okay, so that's their interaction. And same thing with children with adults. When they're grieving, it's like, oh, okay, so this is what happened, and this is how I was treated. Because I think there's a quote that says, you don't always remember what the person tells you, but you always remember how they made you feel.
Exactly.
And so it's like, how did you make me feel as an officer? How did you make me feel as a peer, as a counselor? How did you make me feel?
Right.
And so we hold on to those feelings, and then it manifests in different ways. Whether it be at school. And so with grief counseling for children, for adolescents, is extremely important because when they go, so they dealing with the death, and they are out of school for a week. A week is not a long time for grieving, not at all, but kids still gotta go to school and learn, etc.
It's also a routine too for them, so it helps them in getting back to routine and being. But
no. Thank you for that correction. Yes.
Very clinical.
For a lot of them, it really is like if I can go back to school, like that's my one place of normalcy. I'm not dealing with all the craziness happening at home as we're preparing for the funeral or as we're preparing and cleaning out the house, things of that nature. But like being back in school, I'm with my friends. I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to think about it. I can be normal.
Very true. But they're still going to school with that loss and with that feeling. Right. And so being able to have that space that allows them to express themselves, that's safe too, and that's non-judgmental. Right. Because sometimes the kids can be cruel.
Yes.
Like, oh, you don't have your mother anymore. Oh, you don't have your father anymore.
Yes.
Right. Okay, this is terrible, but as soon as I said that, I thought of like Eddie Murphy when it was like, you ain't got no ice cream. This is where you. I don't know why that was the first night, but kids can be cruel. Like, what you mean? And so, and then that's on a different level. But it's important to have these spaces, where people can have these positive interactions.
Absolutely.
And that's why the Bronx Shields is so important to me. I've been a president for 10 years, and I really love being the president because I know the impact. So a lot of times when people interact with the police, it's always something negative. You know, we only respond. We don't respond to birthday
I never called the police like, hey, how are you doing?
Exactly.
Right.
So you only associate the police with trauma and with negativity.
True.
So what we do is we have a community church fellowship program. So we actually just go to various churches and we just fellowship for no particular reason, but we just go to church and just hold your hand and just pray That's it. That's
that's
all
great.
we do.
Right.
We have a litany of events because we want that ripple effect to be positive. We understand how negative it is. I told you earlier how I did not like the police growing up as a young man. So I had an issue with the police growing up, so I know what it's like.
Where did you grow up?
In Newark.
Where in Newark?
Clinton Place?
On the South Shore?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Only for a little while.
Just make sure that was clear.
So well, I think that's important for our listeners to know people's background and where they're coming from, because they might assume like, oh, you probably somewhere in the suburbs, like you just came here. It's like, no. And so for you to say, no, I became a police officer in the city in which that I grew up in, that I was raised in, I think that does speak to power for you to say how much you appreciate being a police officer and what you've learned and how you're able to give back into this different capacity. Yes. And so I think that is powerful to put that out there. And of course, child is not word, but still, it's important. So,
yes. But I know that positive effect that we're having on the community. I know it. Even going back to the '67 rebellion, back then the community asked for the Bronze Shield. When they were dealing with the police, they said, listen, we don't want to talk unless the Bronze Shields come. Knowing that we have that type of history, and we want to make sure that we continue that today. We want to make sure that the community knows when the Bronze Shields are on the scene, these are police officers who you can trust, who's going to embrace you, and who's not going to wrong you on any level.
Right.
So I really am excited about being the president. I absolutely love it. It's a lot of sacrifice, but hey, it's all good.
It's worth it. Well, that's what we do as public servants.
Yes.
It's sacrifices, and so it's not about self. It's not about how can I get to the next level. And if it is how I get to the next level, it's to help other people even more.
Yes.
To the greater, to that much greater degree.
Yes.
And so I don't know anyone who says I don't know how to teach, but I can rule the world.
No.
Or even the police officer. You know, police like I'm become the police officer, so I can just take over everything. Like I'm sorry. Again, you're in the wrong position. Or even like mental health. And then like you said, it's a lot of backlash because it's a lot of negative. Even like mental health is negativity as well.
Oh yeah.
Because something's wrong.
Right.
Something's
automatically.
here. And so no, nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. That's hey, it happens. So you know you're affected. Right.
Yes.
And that's completely okay to be affected. And again, it's about how you go about moving forward.
Right.
And it's important. It's important if we are trying to help our city move forward. It's important that we recognize these things.
Right.
Yes.
Another thing that we do in terms of like going back to moving forward is really about giving voice to people again, right? So your story matters, you should tell it, and you should tell it the way that you want to tell it. And when it comes to grief and loss, most people don't get a chance to tell their story. It's now lambasted, it's all over Facebook and social media, and now everybody knows who died and how they died.
So someone told me you tell your narrative before someone creates a narrative for you.
Exactly.
And I think that happens with the city of Newark all the time.
Right.
With media, whether it comes from newspapers, whether it comes from television. There you have always something negative to say. I would love for the day that we can plaster Imagine or the Bronze Shield.
Right.
How many times do you get recognized for the work that you do in the community versus the negative that you do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think outlets such as these, and so thank you to Ed Riley for allowing us to occupy this space to let it be known the positive things that are being pushed out into our community. But I'm sorry, I interrupted
No, it's okay. But so part of what we do is really about, we have the families come in to do an orientation. They tell us their story. A lot of them it's their first time actually ever saying it, right? But the thing is that when they go into their groups, we never tell the facilitators their story. We want to give them the time to say it when they want to and how they want to. And instead of me saying like, oh yeah, and this person and so died in their family. That's not my story to tell. So I want to give them that power back to have that narrative. But also there's a lot of disenfranchised and suffocated grief, right? Because we say if you lost someone due to homicide or to suicide.
Can you explain suffocated grief?
Sure. So we really take away the power for the people to grieve the way they want to and how they want to. We then suppress it and say like, because your person died from suicide, you're not allowed to grieve for that long. Or you shouldn't be grieving at all because they took their life, they had a choice. right? Compared to someone dying from cancer, for example. Then for that situation, people can grieve as long as they want. But if it's suicide, you can't, right? Or if it's even homicide. I've had other people where it's like someone died and they killed someone, and it's like telling that mom, you can't grieve. They shouldn't have been out there living that lifestyle. But they still lost a child. They're still allowed to feel and have all of their feelings about the fact that your child is no longer here. No matter what their child chose to do, the child is still no longer here. We need to respect the fact that they are grieving too. So we would really kind of try to give people back their voice and their power when it comes to how they tell their story of loss and when they tell it.
No, I never heard that term before, suffocated grief.
That's by Jacelyn Bordier. That is not my term. She's amazing.
That's just me. She knows she's talking about.
She sure does.
No, I'm assuming you can see that as well, being a police officer as well. Even with police officers they may have even it's not grief, like a suffocated trauma.
Right.
Like you saw something, get over it, you're a police officer.
Right.
Exactly.
Move forward. This is what we do.
And that's one thing that I always advocated about, and I always took issue with. A police officer can be at the most traumatic crime scene. I mean, and there are some traumatic crime scenes that I've seen. Now you're expected to leave that scene within minutes, respond to another scene, and be officer friendly like nothing ever happened. Like you did not see that body mutilated 5 seconds ago. You know what I mean? And you're expected to go there and say, hey, how you doing, Miss Norton? Hey,
that's your job, quote unquote.
Because that's your job, and it's really humanly impossible.
Right.
And for you to put yourself through that after 25 years, how can you be okay?
Yeah, even for 1 year. 12 months is a long time.
It really is.
So to have, I'm going to come up with another term, suffocated trauma. And so.
Right. Let's coin that. Yeah, trademark it.
Right.
But no, I'm sorry, but I appreciate that terminology because it can be manifested in different areas too.
Yes.
Even as a teacher, if a child is being abusive in one way or another, or you are dealing with a family that's going through a lot, you may have a traumatic, a suffocated situation because now you have to, like, the next day you got to go to work.
Right.
And you have to still educate your students, right?
Yes.
But I am so sorry, but we have to wrap up. But before I know, that's why
we're having fun.
That's why more people are in the room. That's how they let me know. They're like, okay, now.
Time is up.
The squad just
break it down.
But that just means this conversation can continue.
Absolutely.
And I would love to have both of you back, even if it's not at the same time. But and so right before we all came in here, I questioned if I should have my guests come in one at a time, or should it be a whole group? And I felt as though the conversation would be that much richer because just how you said, Jacelyn, you triggered something for what you said.
There's synergy, right?
Yes, because again, this is the ecosystem, and so what your value can help add value to what you have over here, and vice versa. And so, but true to all politics are local, we asked. This is my favorite question.
Go ahead, break it down. Break it down.
And so, who is your favorite rap artist or rap group? And so,
go ahead, break it down. That's right.
There's some different age groups in
here. So I'll answer. J. Cole is my favorite.
Okay.
Also because he's a St. John's alum. So we
we
went to school at the same time. But I feel like he's very fully aware of what's happening in the community. He speaks truth to power. And so I really appreciate the work that he does.
Okay.
That's what's up. That's what's up. J. Cole in the building.
Yes.
All right, that's what's up.
I guess I have to say Jay-Z.
Really?
I think so.
Everyone always says Jay-Z.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Congressman Payne, that's Congressman Payne's boy.
Oh.
He loved
but
Jay-Z.
why? I like how Jacelyn gave the explanation why.
That's what's up.
I love his energy. I love his energy, and I love especially the new him. He showed how you can start at one location in your life and you can transition into something even more powerful. You know what I mean? And I love that about him. I love how he took his beginnings, and he's truthful about his beginnings. He doesn't lie about his beginnings because that makes everyone understand that the you are at 17 or 18 is not the you that you will become when you're a man.
Right.
So he shows that. And
Wait, so
because
you just said when you're 17, you're not a man, right?
I believe
want
that.
everyone to hear that again.
I believe that.
17.
You are not a man. No, you're not. No, you're not.
There's scientific fact about that too, so you're right.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I think, and so I do like little research in my head, and so I'm always wondering why people are choosing Jay-Z, and I think it's like his brand, and so I'm not too sure of his rap skills.
Oh.
And I'm not saying it's not, it might be, but it's like this idea of like where he came from and what he was able to do with himself.
Yes.
And so and I think that's very powerful. We just spoke about the mayor, Baraka, in terms of he's been running for political offices
since
1994.
1994.
And so he never gave up.
Never
and
gave
so actually when I explain that to children of like never giving up, I don't always go to the Michael Jordan. He wasn't on his basketball high school team. I take an example of our mayor.
Right.
It's like, you know how many times people told him no?
Closer to home.
Thousands of people told him no, but he never gave up.
Yes.
And so, I think that's pretty cool. Cool Jay-Z.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
But thank you so much, Lieutenant Holmes and Ms. Matthews, for being my guest.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, of course. Literally, it is summertime. You can be on the beach. You can be at a summer home. You can be home, like in general. And so thank you for coming here on All Politics Are Local to share your story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
That's what's up.